So the aim of this module is to get you comfortable with the thorny question of when you should use actors versus components for a particular piece of functionality. Now, it mostly comes down to what the two of them are able to do, and they are designed for very different purposes, so it makes sense that this comparison looks quite different. The idea of an actor is that they are easily placed within levels and composed of multiple components to get their job done. Now, they can have some functionality of their own, but mostly their functionality comes from the components. Now, there are a few commonalities between the two, such as both of them can inherit, so an actor can inherit from another actor. We can also have a component inherit from another component. As we've seen, we are able to inherit from the scene component, which gives us a bunch of functionality. Also, if you derive them in blueprints and use the blueprint subclass, you can override some of the default values, and you can have your game designers responsible for setting up those default values. So that works in both cases. However, between the two, the maintainability and modularity is quite different. If you write a lot of code into actors, then you aren't going to be able to reuse that as readily as if you had written it into components. And also because you tend to compose actors out of lots of small components, it means that the maintainability of the components is much higher because each component is just having a single responsibility. Whereas by their very nature, actors tend to be across the board, doing things from sound to AI. And so if you write code that's specific to actors, that code's not going to be reused, and also it's going to go and span across multiple different disciplines. So the final note here is about composability. Now, actors can be composed within other actors. However, you would only want to do this rarely because the way the editor is set up and the way that the gameplay framework is set up, this isn't the easiest thing in the world to do, and it's much more set up for components to be composed within actors. Similarly, components can be very well composed within actors. However, you cannot easily compose a component within another component. Again, that's slightly harder. So do keep those things in mind when choosing between actors versus components for a given piece of functionality. So let's have a little pop quiz. We're going to have a look at some different pieces of functionality that we want to implement, and you're going to shout out at your screens which one you think it should be, actor or component. The first one here, a grabber, something responsible for grabbing behavior. What should it be? Well, I would go with component on this one because you might want to put it on an enemy, you might want to put it on a player actor and reuse that code. It's also a very specific piece of functionality. It works well in the component. How about an enemy? Well, an enemy is a very dispersed piece of functionality. You'd probably want to bring together multiple components for this, so an actor would fit. How about a player? Same argument goes there as the enemy. We'd want to bring together a lot of functionality, probably a lot of the same functionality as the enemy, so we probably want to do this in an actor. How about an audio source? Well, it depends what kind of audio source you want. If it's something that you just want to place in the level and have it emit sound, then maybe it should be an actor. However, if it's something that you want to attach to a player, to an enemy, then it probably should be a component. What about AI behavior? Well, AI behavior could be used for enemies, it could be used for friendly NPCs, so you probably want to put that as a component for reuse. How about a scene audio manager? Now, my instant reaction to this is probably to say an actor, because you want to put it in the scene and you might want it even go between different scenes and not be destroyed when scenes load. That is one thing, or you could have it as a component, and that component could then be added to the game mode. The way you choose to do this is ultimately up to how you are trying to use this audio manager and what its requirements are. Okay, so hopefully you have got an overview of the strengths and weaknesses of actors and components and feel more comfortable about knowing when to choose which over the other.